everybody, and welcome back to Adobe Live and to a brand new episode of the creative challenges in Adobe Illustrator. So today we're going to be talking about a marketing challenge. In fact, we will be creating mood boards. I will show you how to use Illustrator efficiently in order to create good looking mood boards that will help you to guide your clients and your project and really lay the foundations for your marketing and also for your branding, because mood boards, as we know, just give us an overlook and a translation of ideas into images and are a great step to start up your project. So hopefully you're excited about today's challenge. Don't forget that you can access the starter file, so you can join and work with me by clicking on the link below, where you will find an Illustrator file. Also, if you're using Illustrator for the first time, you can also download Illustrator from the Adobe website and get a trial in order to get started with these challenges, which are friendly and free for all. Let me go ahead and put my phone on silent, and otherwise, actually it's my watch. I don't know why it makes this sound, but in the meantime, hopefully everybody has already started and jumped on the started file, and I can actually go ahead and jump on my screen so you can see how it looks like, and it should look exactly like mine. Also, the lovely Sam Peterson in the chat has placed the clickable link, which will give you easy access to the starter file. I want to say what's up and hello to everybody that is joined this live in the chat. I can see Carol, Sarah, Anki, Sean. What's up, Sean? I've seen your stream yesterday. Lots of love. I was really happy to see you live, and I managed to jump in real quick. We have Jason from San Diego. Every time that I see San Diego, Jason, I'm just like, my eyes just skim through everything. I love San Diego. Exciting. Thank you for being here. Let me know, as usual, where are you watching from? I am streaming right now from Manchester, UK. Although I give you a little bit of a heads up because this is going to change, and you will see from the topic of today that I'm kind of house obsessed, because this is what's going on in my life right now. We're going to talk about how to create a mood board, and we're going to be focusing on house interiors. So that can be also translated for a brief. For example, if you're starting a company, or if you're working with a client that works in a estate agent, interior design, or even for your own home. Creating mood boards will allow you to get your ideas together and display them in a very nice professional way. Also to communicate where you want to go with your design if you're working with your clients, and also to gather a color palette from a specific set of images. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Hopefully you're very excited. I know this starter file looks a little bit weird, but that's a part of the game. I'll show you how to use it in order to create your mood board. We have Switzerland in the house, as I mentioned, the UK, Austin, San Diego. What else? Let me know. Tarcisio, ciao. I know that you're from Italy, Sweden, Texas. Fantastic. Lovely to see this amazing international community. Don't forget that you can watch on Behance or on YouTube. Feel free to leave your comments. And of course, if you just want to, perhaps just grab a cup of coffee and try the challenge later on, this stream, alongside all the other amazing Adobe live stream, is going to be available for you to watch on demand on the YouTube channel on Adobe Live, which don't forget to subscribe. It's brand new. We look forward to see you there. There is so much inspiration, so many challenges, but it's time to get started. I don't want to get lost in more chit chat. And as you can see here, we have this lovely starter file that displays an artboard, and then these little shapes which we're going to be using for our color palette, and also this shape. Now, I know you'll be like, why do you have this rectangle that is got like this weird border? Well, I just placed it there because I just wanted to show you that there is actually a rectangle that we are going to be using in just a second. Before we get started, every starter file that you're going to have from yours truly always displayed some layers that you want to take a notice of. In this case, here in the layers panel, which if you do not see on your screen, you can find under the window menu, you will see that we have a layer called hide. If we're going to go ahead and click on the layers, you can hide the little label that just tells us, hey, this is challenge number 4. By the way, if you haven't seen the other challenges, go ahead and here just below me under the behance.net page with the live streams, or on YouTube you can watch the replays for challenge number 1, 2 and 3, which were really exciting. We had a lot of fun working with 3D and so much more. And as I can say here, we always have access to the starter file. You will be able to access the previous starters file as well from the descriptions of the stream. Here we can hide the label, and we have the design layer, which if we hide, of course, everything disappears. But I want to show you also how you can create your own layers. Click on the little plus icon located at the bottom of the layers panel to create a new layer. You will see we have layer number 3. We can double click on layer number 3 in order to rename it. I want to call this one color palette. And there are different ways in which you can add content to layers are containers that will allow you to manage and control your graphics and your content and really work and prevent sometimes editing as well, like I've done before. Here in this little hide, if you see, is the layer is locked, and that prevents me to move the little label even if I'm working on the same artboard. Okay, so how do we move? Let me go ahead and put this back aligned to my artboard horizontally and vertically. Now, how do we move, for example, these elements that I say that we want to use for the color palette? How do we shift them and move them in the color palette panel layer? Sorry, we have a few ways of doing so. You can either select it here from the layers panel, so you go ahead and select the layer per each graphic and then drag it inside the layer. It's simply, you can do so, or you can just go ahead and copy and paste. So select any element that you wish to transfer into another layer, Control or Command C to copy, select the other layer, Control Command V to paste it in the other layer, or simply select the layer and go ahead and choose any tool to start to add a new, for example, we can add a new square here, and you can see is added in the selected layer, which is now the color palette. Perfect. Now, if you're wondering why did you make us move all this stuff? Well, this is because we're going to be working on the main rectangle that is sitting in the background, and we're going to go ahead and hide the color palette right now. And that's when I was talking about the crucial power of leveraging the power of the layers panel, because now we still have the color palette there. We are ready to go. We're already organized for our challenge and for our work, but we can move step by step, put the layers panels aside and focusing on one thing at a time. So we can go ahead and start working with this particular layer. Now, what I want to do with this rectangle, which is exactly of the same shape of my artboard, is to split it in a way so we have our main page divided equally. Every time when I see images, let's go ahead and start to bring some images in, perhaps to start. Let me see what Auntie's saying. I find the layer palette in Illustrator a bit confusing. I'm so used to Photoshop layer palette. Yeah, Anki, so the layers in Photoshop and the layers in Illustrator panel, I just didn't understand what you meant by palette. So the layers in Illustrator and the layers in Photoshop are similar in the sense that they display objects. Now here, layers in Illustrator, you have to imagine they're already like as groups. Layers in Photoshop, usually each object, each pixel object or vector object in Illustrator has its own layer, unless you merged different objects inside a specific layer. But if you in Illustrator, you can have different objects inside the layers because it's like a folder. So in Illustrator, layers are more like a folder, and you can put each piece of paper or each graphic inside this layer folder, while in Illustrator each single layer is pretty much refers to its own object inside the canvas. And that's because vectors, and Illustrator is a vector-based app, while Illustrator is a pixel-based app, and that's what makes the difference. But we can talk about it more. Maybe we should do cross Photoshop Illustrator challenge at some point where we can work together with the two apps. And towards the end of the stream, I'll show you, I actually have a link because I've done a project with Adobe where I've worked with Illustrator and Photoshop together. Let me know if that's a link that you would like to have, because I can find it in the meantime. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring in some of the images. As you can see here, I simply have a folder where I've collected, surprise, surprise, some images about homes and interiors, because I'm gonna move home, selling my house, moving in. So I'm just home obsessed at the moment, but we can imagine that we're working for an estate agent, interior design company, or maybe you're creating for a client because you are deciding their interior or their colors from their own. Well, starting from a mood board would really help you to get on the same page with your clients and get your ideas together. Now, the majority of the time when people start to work with images and start to create a mood board with images, just like so, they will tend to have all these images with different size, bring it in, and then having to resize them, and it all sorts of start to become a bit messy with the folders, because you have all these images that look all different sizes and they get chucked inside the page, and then you will have to resize them and so on and so forth. And this is not a very professional way of working. So let me show you what I will do and the way that I will tackle this task for the challenge. The first thing to do in order to stay organized will be to use the libraries panel. As you can see, I use the libraries quite a lot. Look at the quantity of libraries that I have here. I can go ahead and create a new library. I'm going to call this one Challenge Mood Board. And I will use this library in order to contain all the assets and all the images and color palette that refer to this specific project. This not only allows me to free space in my machine, in fact, look at that, I can go ahead and delete all these images and they're still here saved inside the Adobe server, but also I can click and drag and place the images wherever I want. And most importantly, I can also share them with my clients. Time runs so fast because I would like to show you how to do the share for review. Maybe we can do a little bit of that. There's always so many things that I want to show you here. But let's start from this rectangle and how we can use that, and how we can use that as a reference to create images that are equally divided inside our artboard. Illustrator doesn't have such thing as margin and grids, although we have access to ruler. If you wish to do so, you could perhaps do the math and split your images using ruler, just like that. But a much faster way of doing so, it's simply to select the rectangle tool and click and drag to create a rectangle of the same size of your artboard. And then with your rectangle selected, head to the top object menu, select path, and from path, all you have to do is to select split into grid. Now make sure your preview is active, because look what happens if you start changing the number of rows. Seemingly nothing is going on in here, but if we actually click on the preview, you will see that we are splitting this rectangle, which is exactly the same size of our artboard, into equally sized shapes, which is exactly what I want. Now, if you want, you can also hide guides. I don't particularly feel that there is a need for that. So at this moment, I think that I'm quite happy with the number of images that are in here. Perhaps you can also choose maybe even less. Let's actually do it a little bit of less, so we have bigger images. That's absolutely up to you. Depends if you're just, what sort of mood board you're creating, what sort of direction you're looking to refer to. In this case, I just want to create a color palette and just give a general direction for my project. So I think that 8 images is quite enough. And again, simply starting by a single shape, we use the object top menu, then head to path. I'm just going to do it one more time, so perhaps you can take a screenshot here. Select your shape, then head. And by the way, this can be any shape you like. Object, path, and split into grid. So once you split into grid, you can go ahead and choose the number of rows and columns that you want. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and choose 2 rows and 3 columns and click on OK. By doing so, remember that because we split it into a grid, now we actually have access to separate assets and separate images that we could use to create our mood board. Okay, so it's now time to start adding these images here, and look at that. First of all, when I bring images in from my libraries, they load. So I kind of have a little bit of a preview of what I am bringing in. And then instead of just dragging out the folder, remember that if we click and drag it from a folder, you just have the image that is like full size, so sometimes you have to go back and scale it and it becomes messy. Well, here, because the image is selected on your loader, and by the way, you can bring in more than one image if you want. Let's go ahead and select 4 altogether or whatever they are. It tells you first of all that those are 5 images. The preview is the first image of 5, and then you can simply go ahead and click and drag in order to place your image. So this is going to be my image number 1. This is going to be my image number 2. So I can go ahead and conveniently start to place the images where I know they will roughly be inside my mood board. And I know that it's still looking messy at the moment. Let's go ahead and click and drag in order to bring it in. So we have all our images here, but what am I going to do now is to start to send these images back. And perhaps what I should have done is also you can go ahead and choose the draw behind. That will allows you right away to place you know, whatever vector or image behind. But what I'm doing here is very simple, selecting all the images and then using the shortcut Control Shift left bracket, which will bring the image behind my shape. And now all I'm left to do is to select the top shape that I've split using the split into grid and hold the Shift key to add the image behind. Let me go ahead and zoom in so you can see. So I've selected this first shape, then hold Shift and then added the image behind because we're going to create a clipping mask. You will see in just a second. By the way, clipping mask shortcut is Control 7 on a Windows. That will be Command 7 on a Mac. We're going to use the image that the shape that we split in a grid, which has already the perfect size, so is uniform with the other one, as almost a cutout that will be able to reveal the part, only the part of the image that is underneath that shape, and all the rest will be hidden inside Illustrator. So we go ahead and select Control 7 or Command 7. You will see now that the image is there. Now, as you can see, we have a little bit of a border, but that was done intentionally because that's going to allow you to have a little bit of space within the image. And because all of our rectangle have the same space, once we go ahead and again select one image and the little shape, and again Control 7, you will see that the shape will be consistent. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep going and keep adding the images here and starting to create. And look how neat it is. Literally, in a few steps, we were able to use images which were completely different size from each other and just bring them in together in order to create this lovely mood board. One more to go. Remember, bring in the image and then Shift Control left bracket to bring it behind, and then click and drag to select them both. Now, by the way, if there is by any chance 2 images that you want to add, let's see that I'm just gonna say like we want to add 2 images under the same square, perhaps you can do so, but you will have to group them first. So you will have to select both images to start with, Control G to group, and then is the case when you can then use them and clip them under the same shape. So see, if I do so, you will be able to clip both images. Now the second part is that what if I change my mind and, for example, I just one of the 2 images, or I want to resize. Let me go ahead and hide this. If you want to go ahead and resize, add any other images, modify them, maybe you can, you know, bring into light any specific, for example, here we're not seeing the roof, we're seeing too much of the pavement. Here we had the second image that now we want to delete. How do we do that? Well, all you have to do is to double click on the actual clipping mask, and this will allow you to enter the isolation mode. The isolation mode will allow you to enter the content of the clipping mask, which is editable at any time. So you can move the image, you can scale its proportion, and so on and so forth. So again, here I can enter the image and I can just simply perhaps scale it. Don't forget to use the Shift key when scaling in Illustrator in order to constrain proportion and of course move it around. Everything that is sitting outside the image will be then hidden, and everything that sits inside the image, it will be left there and revealed. Isn't that pretty cool? Time goes way so fast. It's time to jump right away into our color palette. So here we have images that are nice, displayed in a much more organized and professional way. So if we now go ahead and we toggle the visibility of the color palette, what I tend to do is to bring all this color palette in between, just so that they cross over in between images. And of course here I'm going fast here to show you the technique, but I tend to put together images that perhaps have some color palette that overlays, and then I have these little squares where there is that color accent that I think it really you know, does a good job in conveying whatever I want to share with this particular mood board. By the way, we got Robzilla in the house. What's up? And Richard is saying all good in Sweden. We'll be in the 70s this weekend. Oh wow, it's actually snowing here. So let's go ahead and let's move on in showing you how you can really quickly extract color. All you have to do is to select the shape and use the eyedropper tool and click on any color that you like, and you can go ahead and simply select the letter V to select the shape, and then the letter I, and click on the color that you wish to select. For example, here we can have all the green, and you can go ahead and start to create a mood board that has all the reference and these colors. Maybe we can just simply use the white, or maybe this sort of like cream color over here. Again, here we can pick up the color of the snow. So as you can see, this is a color palette that is very earthy. It's got like a lot of similar tones and very earthy tones. Now, how do we save these colors inside our library? So we've done all this artwork, we collected all this color palette. How do we get it to work? Well, all you have to do is to select these shapes, and then here from the libraries panel, simply click on the color fill, and you will see that in just a second we will have a collection of color fill that then you'll be able to use throughout each single Adobe app. You can use it on Adobe Express. So let's say, for example, you're doing this brief for a specific company and you're creating their brand, so you want to use this color for the adverts and so forth and so on. Well, you will be able then to jump in any other app, and then here from the challenge mood board, or whatever you call your library, you have access to the color theme. So if we're going to go ahead and, for example, create an advert, let me see if we have some images that perhaps could work for social media as well. So let's go ahead, and we're going to go ahead and use this image for an advert, and we want to type a text, or maybe we want to do like a little banner here to write a title. You can simply go ahead and choose the color directly from your library, which will allow you to really retain that consistency and start to set up a sort of, you know, idea even for your client or for yourself in terms of what you want to do and where you want to go with this brand or with this marketing project. Okay, so hopefully that was super interesting for you to do, to see. There isn't something else that I want to show here, which I mentioned. One was the share for review, so you can actually share this one with your clients, or if you're working with a team or with another company using the shared document. This is great when you're working on marketing projects and you're working in a team, or you're working directly with your clients and they do not have access to Illustrator. We have the same system working inside InDesign. Share for review saves you a ton of time. You do not have to do meetings. All you have to do is to send them a link, which you can go ahead and create here. Share for review at the moment is still in beta, so still a bit of improvement here. You can go ahead and click on create link, and by doing so, the artboard will be transformed into a link that you can then share with anybody, even if they do not have access to Creative Cloud. It looks like I have a couple minutes to show you how it works. Here you can copy the link, you can make sure that anyone with the link can comment, or just invited people, so you can make it private. And now if I jump back on the internet here, and perhaps I go ahead and access at incognito. So let me see, let's do a new incognito page, so it doesn't take my, you know, Adobe Creative Cloud sort of login. So basically, you know, I'm someone who doesn't have any Creative Cloud. You will see that I will be able to see this on a browser, anywhere, on the phone. I literally do reviews sometimes with my team internally. When I'm in Italy, I travel so much, I'm on a plane, I'm on a train, editings have been done, I need to approve something, they just send me the link here, we share for review, and all I do there is just then to like draw a shape and be like, hey, I love this color, or like, hey, this image, I don't like it, I don't like this sort of layout, having, you know, the staircase and whatever it is that you can write down. So this is a no. And then all you have to do is to submit, and you can continue as a guest. So for example, I can write my name, or you can write the name of the client or whatever it is. And once these edits are there, then will be available for you to view direct. Look, the pop-up, I haven't done anything. The pop-up just came up. And once this comment panel comes up, we have this little feedback with also the drawing, the illustration, the pinpoint, and the comment. So I will know already, okay, so this is a no, absolutely fine, no worries. So I know that here in this image, because it's a clipping mask, I can enter in this image. I can go ahead and change it, go back into my libraries and bring up, for example, let me see something else that we didn't have here. Here it is, this image here, and bring it back inside my mood board, just like so. Let's see if we can fit it right there. And here it is. So I now changed my image inside my mood board, and I can reply, and I was like, what about this? Now, before, very last thing before we say goodbye, in order to make sure that your client sees the changes, what you want to do here is to always go back and update your project. So by clicking on update content, they will be able to see your change and of course your reply. So if now we go back on the link here, oops, I know that we're very tight with time. We can go ahead and see that there is a reply. Of course, the image has not been updated yet. It's probably because the document is still updating. And here it is. And perhaps we can go ahead and flag this with perfect, that is being approved. And you can also create a little resolution here by resolving the project and the comment. Well, hopefully this was so useful. Unfortunately, it's time to say a quick goodbye. Don't forget to stay tuned. There is so much coming up here. I'm also live with Design Fix. Don't forget to stay tuned on Adobe Live. Enjoy the fun, and I will see you very shortly. Goodbye for now.